Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today's December 14th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see our storm system under development here to the northeast of the Hawaiian Islands. Here's the state of California. This area of cold air is also going to help reinforce that system develop off the coastline here. And it's going to spin for a bit here, but it's going to be continuously affected by the westerlies as we go. It may become cut off for a bit, but it's going to continue its progress off to the east. And that's going to bring some precipitation amounts. Could be heavy for some areas. We'll dive into those details. And if we look back across the Western Pacific, you can see Japan is here. There's China. This system here, this cold air there is going to move all the way across the Pacific Ocean and affect California next as we go on in through next week. You can see the Hawaiian Islands to the far right of the globe there and the maritime continent to the bottom left. Now, taking a look at the weather outlook, offshore winds to rainfall through Saturday. The offshore winds will continue. Isolated 50-mile-per-hour gusts here. Strongest on Friday, so heads up for the elevated fire weather conditions, low relative humidities in the meantime before the system gets here. And you can see that California, Los Angeles National Weather Service here is talking about what to expect. Shouldn't get caught up in the details too much just yet. If you have concerns with how much rain we're going to get, you're going to want to check back daily because you know how these systems can be. So we're going to dive into those details and start that today. Potential for significant rainfall this week, and this is the Bay Area, and they're showing you the 10th, 50th, and 90th percentile of the ensemble runs here. So the reasonable worst case scenario here on the right, and the least amount you should expect here on the left. So you can see these are pretty hefty precipitation totals here. So confidence is increasing in an impactful event for Central and Northern California. A little bit less confident for Southern California, but there's some big totals showing up, and we'll dive into that here in a minute. Looking at the NAM 3KM, this is a high-resolution model, about 2,500 feet in the atmosphere, and I just want to show you the gusty winds across Southern California. As we go on into Friday, you'll see these kick up again, some strong winds out of the north here across some of the desert areas. And you notice how things kind of turn southerly a bit here across some of Central California. And the strong winds actually continue on in through Friday night into Saturday morning for some areas. But you can clearly see the storm developing off the coastline here as well. And then we relax this offshore gradient as we go into later portions of the weekend. And if you guys want a nice, affordable home weather station, starting to sell quite a bit actually because of the holiday season, I'm sure. Christmas is coming up here, so if you can go ahead and order one of these, you're probably still going to get it in plenty of time for Christmas here. It makes a great gift, a very nice weather station. Stores all the data for you in the cloud. No batteries required. Now, taking a look at the GFS, this is last night's run, 06Z. There's the Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left. There's California. So here goes our storm system here, and you can kind of see how it's getting reinforced by that cold air here. And this thing is going to have a nice subtropical tap and bring some hefty precipitation amounts to some areas of the state here. And you can kind of see it lift and fill, move towards Pacific Northwest a bit. Then the reinforcing shot. Another storm will develop off the coastline here. And again, with some rich subtropical moisture with big precipitation potential with that storm as well. And it kind of hangs out there a bit as we go on into about the 22nd of December here. Then we get the jet extension moving across Pacific. And look at this, another powerful storm battering the state of California on Christmas Day. You take that with a grain of salt. The timing can change on this, but this has been showing up in the models pretty persistently. And look at this troughing off the coastline with another strong storm way off into Fantasyland here. But you can clearly see the signal for an active period coming up here for much of the state of California. This is the GFS ensemble mean here. So this is the average of all 30 ensemble members. And we take each one of those 30 members and we tweak them a little bit to try to correct for any errors we may have in our initial forecast. So here we go. There's that initial system. Very good agreement with that, of course. Already under development. Then the reinforcing shot comes. Look at that thing just set up off the coast very nicely here. If you are a storm lover across the state of California, you can see it hang out for a few days. And then we really get the Gulf of Alaska trough going, which looks like it's going to extend down across a lot of the southwest. And look at that signal as we go on through the end of December here. Pretty intense stuff continues to show up in the models. Now, looking at the European ensemble mean as of last night versus yesterday afternoon, I want to show you something here because the Europeans changing things up a little bit here. But you can see the initial storm system and not much difference there. But it's been showing the system diving down a bit more offshore here. But if you notice, last night's run is bringing that further towards the coast, more in line with the GFS. So that's good if you like rainfall and stormy weather in the state of California here versus this one that has been showing the past runs where the European was a little bit further further offshore. So this is definitely better for precipitation into California. And looking at the ensemble mean here as well, the 06Z versus yesterday afternoon's run. Again, in the short term, that system, not much is going to change there, but you can see how that trough is setting up in that low pressure a little bit closer to the state of California and all the ensemble runs as well. Now, taking a look at the spaghetti chart, and you've been watching the last few days, you kind of getting an idea what a spaghetti chart is. We're looking at 18,000 feet in the atmosphere, and we're kind of looking at the general trough position. So if we put this into motion, you'll clearly see the development of the storm. All 50 ensemble members agree with the development of the storm here. Kicks across the area, but not before bringing a few rounds of some interesting rainfall into the state of California. Reinforcing shock comes down here. Pretty good model agreement on that one as well. And then we go off into the extended, and look at this Gulf of Alaska low just gets cranking here. Nice troughing right off the west coast here, potentially bringing more systems as we go into the later portion of December. Now, looking at the GFS 06Z, what would this mean here if we're looking at precipitation values? And these are actually 3-hour chunks I'm moving through right now, but you can see the storm system forming off the coastline. By the time we get towards Saturday late morning, you can see it start to impact some of Northern California, Central, the Bay Area, and swinging some precipitation, possibly heavy at times across the state. First one gets Southern California to an extent here. Then quickly that next storm is going to be right on the heels of that one. And look at some of these precipitation amounts continuing to spin around the state of California all the way in towards the end of next week. As we scroll out further here as well, you can see additional storms plowing into the state on Christmas Day and then further on into Fantasyland towards the end of December as well. Now, looking at integrated vapor transport, so you can see we've got California and Oregon here. Here's Baja. If we put this into motion, this is the GFS again. Here goes our storm system, and look at this fetch of subtropical moisture here. So atmospheric river values are starting to show up across the California coastline here as well. Some AR3 for some of the Bay Area, and you can see that system moves through. The next one starts developing here as we go on in towards next week, and you can see again another nice subtropical tap here driving into Southern California as that storm spins right off the coastline, and that's where the GFS model run ends here, at least on this display. Now, taking a look at San Francisco, you can see I've got it highlighted right there, and you can see that AR3 coming in here. This is going to be fairly beneficial for some areas. We're actually been drying out quite a bit across the state of California. I'll show you the vegetation index here at the end of the video coming up. But for the most part, this is kind of needed rainfall right now, as long as we don't do it too fast and furious and get some flooding concerns out there, which may be a problem as we move through the month if we continue to get storms. But right now, we'll take what we get. Taking a look at total precipitation on the GFS. So this is just the deterministic run. Let's go ahead and let this play through too here as well. And you can see as we go on into Saturday night and Sunday morning, some of this precip starts impacting Central and Northern California. And as we go on into Sunday night, here's Monday morning. Look at some of these bands of precipitation, some heavy amounts starting to show up across a lot of the area. It tries to get down towards Southern California by the time we get into some portion on the day Tuesday. It looks like maybe a little bit earlier. But look at some of the amounts showing up across the Sierra Nevada. Secondary system drops down the coastline here. Big amounts starting to show up across Southern California as we go through next week. And you can see the big amounts as we go on in towards next weekend here. And if we scroll out towards Fantasyland, you'll see these systems continue to batter the state as we go off into the future. Some pretty impressive amounts showing up. This would be December 29th where that ends. Now, looking at the GFS, the 12Z run. This is hot off the presses, so I have not seen this one yet. So let's just go ahead and play this out and see how much data is loaded in this model run. See if anything has changed. You can see Sunday morning, the precip impacting the Bay Area through Sunday night. Precipitation starts to get heavy by the time we go in towards Monday. Some tries to spread down towards Southern California. Let's go out towards about hour 140 here. You can see the precip starts to pick up, especially with that secondary system that drops down across Southern California. Look at some of these amounts across the higher terrain. And this is not a high resolution model here, so some of these amounts are going to be locally higher across much of the area. And that's as far as the 12Z runs as I speak. This is the ensemble mean as of yesterday afternoon on the European. We've been looking at the GFS a lot, but look at some of these amounts by Monday afternoon. Here's Monday night. We're now into Tuesday morning, and this is just the ensemble mean of all 50 members. We haven't cherry-picked anything here. And look at some of these precipitation amounts across Southern California as we go in towards next weekend. So pretty impressive stuff here showing up. And this is the one without the most favorable storm setup here. As I showed you, last night's run is trending a little bit closer to the coastline here and would bring better precipitation amounts with it. is. It'll be interesting to see what the weather models show as we go through this afternoon. As I scroll out, you can see additional systems hitting the state as we go through about December 28th there. This is the GFS total snow. 10-to-1 ratio. Let's put this into motion here and watch some of these snow amounts. You can see some of this falling across the higher terrain of the Sierra Nevada as we go on in through Monday and Monday night. Additional round with that system moving across the area. Then you can see these additional systems bringing some pretty big snowfall amounts across the Sierra Nevada as we scroll off into the future here. So yeah, interesting stuff. We might even get a little bit down towards Southern California if things line up just right. Something fun to watch for sure. Now looking across Pacific Ocean, as you know, we've been talking about this for many days now, and this is Japan to the left. There's Hawaii, Alaska, and California. The models have just been completely steadfast with a huge jet extension moving across Pacific Ocean. There goes our first storm here. Then the next storm drives down here. You can clearly see the troughing here at about 39,000 feet with another dynamic storm for California. And then look at this jet extension just rip across the Pacific Ocean with possible additional systems in that time frame. And look at this troughing just setting up here with a very strong jet stream just ripping across Pacific. That would bring more storm potential there as well. And look at this jet extension does not go away as we go towards the end of December here, so we may stay active. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Check it out through December 23rd. Much of the lower 48 should be above average here. It's going to be interesting though. Once we have these storm systems coming into the area, we might hold down temperatures a bit here as well, but there is going to be that subtropical moisture flow that'll keep the temperatures a little bit warmer than normal probably. 6 to 10 day precipitation probability outlook, again with the bullseye in California. 8 to 14 day, not much has changed there. And look at this experimental product has actually introduced some moderate precipitation from the Bay Area down to Southern California around the Christmas time frame there as well. So you might have some Christmas storms to deal with here across the state, and risk of heavy snow moderate has been introduced to the Sierra Nevada here as well. And this is just an experimental product, kind of looking off into fantasy land. Winds also favor the coast of California there also. Now taking a look at the extended forecast run. This is purely fantasy, but I just want to share this with everybody because this is kind of some interesting signals continue to show up. These are date at time that I'm clicking through here. So you can see as we go into Christmas Eve, now we're going to Christmas, now we're going on into the new year here. And you guys get the picture here as what has been showing up in some of the extended model runs here on the European. I mean, obviously, we're not going to get caught up in these details or anything, but it does show a very active period as we go from now all the way towards the end of January. Look at some of these totals showing up. And look at the 46-day precipitation anomaly. Clearly, the entire state of California kind of bullseyed there with some above average potential. And this is, if you take a wider view of things here, you can kind of see how that Gulf of Alaska low, just a strong jet stream, subtropical moisture, really bullseyeing a lot of California. And this is the 500 millibar heights here, and we're going to look way out here. I believe, what is this? I'm not even sure if this is the day at a time. Yeah, this is strictly just the day at a time. But you can see these storm systems just continue to roll through and just absolutely hammer the west coast of North America as we go through the extended forecast. Some interesting stuff always shows up in the extended there as well. But yeah, we're looking at an active time frame coming up here, and that would be partially due to El Nino. So yeah, we'll be watching that for sure. And this is actually showing up days 0 through 30. So this is a 30-day ensemble mean. This goes from December 13th all the way to January 12th here. So you can kind of see this troughing just continue to exist off the coast of California from now all the way in towards late January. Pretty interesting stuff shown there. And this is just kind of show you, you can actually go to Weather Bell and see when these models run. It tells you when they start running and when they should be viewable to us. And so I was showing you the European weeklies there. So it's kind of cool. You can kind of look and see when the model runs will come out. But anyway, a little weather nerdy stuff there for you. But look at the entire state. Right now, we're about, 29% of the historical mean for snow water content across the higher terrain. And hopefully that's going to be changing here with this round of storms. And it should be. So that'll be something fun to watch and see how this evolves here as we go through the next few weeks. But also looking at the vegetation drought response index, we are drought free technically across the state, but as you can see, we haven't had a lot of rain recently. And you can see a lot of the Sierra Nevada actually starting to dry out, even down towards Southern California, not as lush as things were a few weeks ago. So we really could use this precipitation here over the next few weeks. Let's cross our fingers and hope it gets in here so we can remain drought free across the state. And here's the actual drought monitor was actually released today, and it continues to show California without drought. But if for some reason these storms didn't bring us much precipitation as normal, or the storm track went into the Pacific Northwest, we could be looking at drought conditions again here. So we really need this round of rain, and hopefully we can get some to help out Arizona and New Mexico as well. And also I wanted to show you this. This is a Canadian model here, but we're looking at sea surface temperature anomalies for December, and you can see the La Nina signature here across the equatorial Pacific. And when I scroll here, these are month at chunks at a time. So now we're looking at January. There's February. You continue to see that El Nino signature, but it has weakened some. Now we go to March. Look at this. We actually get back towards normal across some of the equatorial Pacific. April, look at that. The cooling coming. Are we going to be headed back towards a neutral or a La Nina as we go towards next year? I mean, look at that complete flop. And a lot of the models are starting to show this here as well. We're probably going to go, our El Nino is going to have a rapid demise here as we go on into the springtime and the summer, and then eventually fall, and maybe have La Nina conditions as we go on into next year, which of course does not mean that we can't have a stormy system, stormy season here across the state of California. But anyway, yeah, so long-winded briefing here today, but hopefully people are starting to get excited because we most likely have some very active weather coming here for the state of California. Mountain snows, heavy precipitation, some gusty winds. We'll take a look at those details as they get closer also. But, you know, today's Thursday, and we still have a few days to go before the precipitation starts moving in here, probably some point on Sunday morning. So anyway, we'll continue to do this and break it down day by day. Hope you guys are liking these videos. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.